Well, hey, sports fans, Larry Eder, Socialing the Distance. Today we have Keira D'Amato. She's a wife. She's a mother. She is a realtor. She is a Nike-sponsored athlete, and she likes to make people laugh. And recently, for 2 hours and 19 minutes, I'm not sure if you made us, in 12 seconds, I'm not sure if you made us laugh, but we went, oh my gosh, you broke the record of an icon. And I was there watching Dina run her 2:19 in London, and wow, I was a nervous wreck the whole time. So congratulations. First of all, I just thought it was a fantastic performance, Keira. And have you come down from cloud 109 yet?
It hasn't sunk in, and I'm starting to realize I don't think it ever will sink in. So I don't know, it feels so surreal that I just can't really comprehend. Like, I knew that from my training and just confidence wise, like I knew I was fit enough to run that time, but just for everything to align, like a lot can happen on a marathon. So I just didn't know if it was going to be my day or not. And I'm really thankful it was.
Is the marathon your perfect distance?
I don't know. Before last Sunday, I would have said, I don't think so. Now I'm starting to think so. But I still feel like I have a lot of, unfinished business left in the half and, on the track too. So I think it's going to be exciting over the next year or two to see what that perfect distance is.
You've run a 4:33 mile, 15:04, 5,000, 31:50 for the 10, the 51:23 for the American record for 10 miles. Tell us about that. What did you feel after you broke that American record?
Yeah, after I broke the 10-mile record, that was a huge sense of like pride because, in COVID, it had shut everything down, and just being able to like plan my own race and have, just a handful of runners come and do it in a really safe way when there weren't a lot of events going on. I was really proud to put on an event like that. And then I hit my goal that day, which was really cool. That was my first American record, which I found out more recently is actually a world women's only record too, which that was pretty mind-boggling in itself. But I think that really helped build my confidence, and I think it helped me on the trajectory of where I am today.
Now, where are you based out of?
I'm in right outside of Richmond, Virginia, in a town called Midlothian, but it's part of like the Richmond community.
Yeah, I used to work for America Online back in the late 80s, and it was right outside of Richmond, so I would fly in there a lot. So I know that area. And then I lived in Wilmington, Delaware for a few years too, so knew that as well. So you started out at Oakton High School with the Oakton High School Cougars, and you ran cross country as a freshman. Tell us a little about your high school experience.
Yeah, I ran high school cross country. I started to impress the soccer coach. I was a soccer player my whole life. I was convinced that I was going to play soccer in high school and in college, and that was just my love. And I got to the cross country team, and I'm like, I'm going to really show the cross country or the soccer coach. I'm going to show him how fit I am, and the off season I'm training real hard. And I got into the first race, and I was put into the JV race, which I felt like I should have probably been in the varsity because I've been running with all the varsity girls. So I felt like I had a little bit, like I had to stick it to them a little bit. But I'm in the first race, and I quickly realized, like, you get to that point in the race where just everything hurts. And I'm like, oh, running's not for me. Nope, this is not going so well. And I'm like, I'm not a quitter, so I'm not going to stop this race. But this is probably the last time I'm ever going to run. This really hurts a lot. And I won that JV race, and I ran, I think, the fastest on my team that day. I think I would have done pretty well in the varsity race. And it was like crossing the line and feeling that I was like, I think I could do this again, and I think my freshman year was a series of, just like testing those limits and finding how hard running could be, but then also how like rewarding it is when it is hard and you're able to push through and find another gear, and then you're so proud of yourself afterwards. So it was kind of, but yeah, after my freshman year, I was totally hooked. I never went back to soccer. And, I created a lot of really great friendships. And I think the biggest thing to me was running in high school. It built my confidence. I was kind of shy, and it gave me a really good community of people, and it taught me how to work hard and set goals. And I'm just real appreciative that I found running when I did.
And what on the track, what were your favorite distances in high school?
I think it was the mile. I ran a 4:51 1600. In
Wow, that's
school.
awesome.
I was, I think, a three-time state I don't know. I won states, I think three times in the mile for Virginia. And so I kind of looked at myself as a miler. I had a lot of like raw speed. They throw me into like a 4x4 and I could break, I could run like 58 in the 400 on a relay. But so, yeah, I kind of thought I was destined to be a little bit more of a short distance runner.
And then you went to American University under Matt Centrowitz.
Sure did.
Tell us about that experience.
Coach Centro and I got along really great. He makes running really simple, right? The harder you work, the better you get. It's just that simple. You got to take care of yourself. You got to be doing all the small things, but he just made it's not complicated. And I think I learned so much from his mentality with running. Don't overthink it. Just, work hard and you'll see the results. And I think that, he's kind of a tough love kind of person. And I think I did well with that. And I really admired him for being a two-time Olympian, American record holder, and just the fact that he had all these amazing experiences with running. I really, really respected that.
What was your favorite distance in college?
So again, like I think I kind of fooled people into thinking I was more of a 1500-meter runner, but I felt like I really never had that breakthrough race in the 1500. But I think my best race in college was at cross country D1 nationals my senior year. I think that would have been 2001. I was sixth overall, which I think was kind of a surprise. That was my third appearance at the nationals, but I was always in the teens. So that kind of felt like a big breakthrough race for me. And then I made it to the nationals in the 5K and became an All-American on the 5K on the track also.
What was the biggest difference for you between being a high school runner and a college runner?
Yeah, I liked from high school to college. I feel like the biggest difference was Centrowitz gave us a little more freedom. So instead of the coach saying, you have to run 4 miles today in high school, or you have to do XYZ, Centrowitz would say, all right, this is a recovery day. You have 45 to 60 minutes. Go how you feel. So I started learning to listen to my body, to take control of my training a little bit more. On days where I was feeling better, I'd run faster and run a little longer. And on days when I was struggling, I'd run shorter. So I really appreciate that he really taught me to listen and figure out what I need. And yeah, I think that is kind of one of the biggest lessons is just taking accountability for my own training.
Cool. And then you had some injury problems, and I know of some of it. You had a series of ankle injuries.
I did. I had I call it like a recurring stress fracture in my left foot or ankle, and we finally, we'd let it heal, take the time off, get back up, build back up, and then it would hurt again. So we finally found someone that did the right kind of x-rays to see that I had something called a Tarsal Coalition, where two bones were connected that weren't supposed to be. So because there wasn't like a break right there, it was putting a lot of pressure on other bones in my foot and just kind of leading to these perpetual injuries. And the only solution for that was surgery. But at the time, my surgery claimed it was the pre-existing condition because I had twisted that ankle, I guess, in high school. So totally not connected to this injury at all. But they said they weren't going to cover that injury. So, and I was like, okay, well, this is like my livelihood. Running is everything to me. And they're like, it's going to be, I forget, $30,000, $50,000, $60,000. And I was like, well, okay, I don't have that. I guess I'm going to have to find something else at this point. So I kind of felt forced out of the sport. Like I didn't end on my terms. I had a lot of unfinished business and a lot of goals that I felt like hadn't been achieved. So that was kind of a weird period just to now find, I was always Keira the runner. So now I'm Keira the runner who's not running. Like what now? So, yeah, so that was weird, but I learned to forgive myself for not hitting those goals, and I learned to move on. I discovered more parts of me that make me proud to be myself and that excite me and make me happy. And I think everything I learned during that period makes me a really strong runner today, just because I'm just I don't know, just a little more balanced, I think, which takes some pressure off running.
Yeah, in my era, most in the 70s, it was that time when most serious or wannabe professional runners, they were in graduate school or they worked and then they ran around it. And it seemed to give them some type of balance. And then there was that period where all people did was run. And I always wondered, that had its own difficulties because if you didn't do well in running, what else did you have? You know, you seem to be, and from what I've read and in our conversation now, someone who really thinks being well-rounded is very important. You're a wife, you're a mom, 2 children?
Yep.
What are their ages?
My son, Tommy, is 7, and then I have a daughter who's 5. Quinn.
Oh, wow. You go straight to heaven. Yeah, that's those are special ages, you know. And then you're a realtor as well?
Full-time realtor, yeah.
Commercial or
Residential.
Oh, residential. Wow. Yeah, I'm going through that experience now. I'm selling my parents' house and in California through our trust, and then looking for a place up in Oregon. So it's a real experience, and you need to interview, as you know, people that you're comfortable with. So it makes a big difference. You have been coached by Scott Rasko for how long now?
I think he started coaching me post-collegiate. So he coached me for, I think, 2 or 3 years post-collegiately right out of college. And then that was like the Alan Webb era. So we were on a team together along with a few other athletes. And that was I really loved that team. And now I think he started coaching me, I want to say at the end of 2017 or middle of 2018, I think maybe we started getting, like, I started asking him for feedback at first, like, hey, I'm doing this marathon for fun. What do you think of these workouts? And he would just laugh at me and be like, I think you're the only person that, because it was all fun, right? So I was trying to figure out ways to stay motivated and have fun. And so he helped me just make my training a little more intentional, build up towards a goal. And yeah, we work really well together.
Now, your first marathon, you ran about 3:17?
That was actually my second marathon. So that was, okay. I'll call that the first marathon on my comeback tour. But okay. before I had kids in 2013, with very little training, I went in totally underestimating the marathon. I ran the Montana Missoula Marathon.
Wow.
And I got to maybe, I think 16 or 18 miles. And I was like, well, I'm done. I'm not a marathoner. I'm not meant to do this. And I was like, but I'm not a quitter. So I'm going to finish this. So I walked the rest, walk to run. When there was a gummy bear table, I'd stop and see how many I could fit in my mouth just to like buy me some more time before I had to walk or run again. I ran 3:49:49, and I was so happy to be done and so proud that I finished a marathon. And it's funny because they sent out, I think over Twitter, my finish line video from that. And like, I thought I was maybe in 3:15, 3:20 shape. And they're like, hey, look, this is when Keira ran the 3:49 at our race. And I watched the video. I crossed the finish line like I crossed any of the ones I have recently, like hands up in the air, celebrating like I won the Olympics. And so I was like, you know what, that seems pretty true to form, not much has changed. So that's pretty funny.
When you ran the 3:17, the story I read about it, was it in the snow and the rain or?
It was hailing.
And where was this?
It was in Virginia Beach. It was the Yingling.
Oh yeah.
St. Patrick's Day, Virginia Beach. They have a whole marathon weekend. So there's a marathon, a half. I think they even have maybe an 8K also. But it was terrible weather. The hail just stung. It hurt. It physically hurt. And then there was one patch where you ran by the beach and like there was winds blowing sand. So you're getting hail from above, sand from like a crosswind. It was just, that was tough. But it took all, for me, I didn't have a time goal really. I was just trying to run the whole way, honestly, was that goal for that race. And it made it kind of fun, and I felt real tough being able to push through all those elements.
What was your training like back then?
So this is where I'm not going to recommend this for anybody, but the point of the story is I made it a lot of fun, but I had kind of two training plans. One, I call it the root beer float training plan, that I was just obsessed with root beer floats. And I think I was still nursing at that time. So I wanted a lot of ice cream, but I was eating too much. So I said, you know what, Keira, if you can run 10 miles in a day, then you get a root beer float at night. Cause I'm just trying to kind of limit it. And turns out I really like root beer floats. So I just started running 10 miles every single day. So I was and turns out, I mean, you could get in pretty decent marathon shape when you're running about 70 miles a week, because I just wanted that root beer float. So I don't recommend that training plan. But like the point of it was, I just put the right kind of carrot that motivated me. So
after your 317, what was your next marathon?
I did the Richmond Marathon. That was in November of 2017. And I got a little bit more intentional with the training. I upped the training plan. So instead of my root beer float training plan, I went to and this is also sounds really crazy, but I went to like a 3-day training plan where I had to run 21 miles in 3 days. So I could either do 7 miles all 3 days, or I could do a 21-mile run and take the next 2 days off, or I do 10 miles, take a day off, 10 miles. So, and that's when Scott Roscoe was like, so what are you doing now? And I told him, he's like, you might be the only person in the world that's trained on like a 3-day schedule. But, that was fun for me. And it was a way just to kind of track it. I don't know. But yeah, my goal that day was to break 3 hours, and I ended up running 2:47.
Wow. When did you run into 2:30s? How many marathons did it take you to get to 2:30s?
I think it took me a few more, because then I did Boston in 2018, the year that was with the crazy.
Oh, yeah.
I ran 2:56 that day, and again, was really proud to finish that one. I had hypothermia after the race, and that was, I mean, it wasn't a good aftermath after that, but I was proud that I finished. And then, and I was trying to run under 2:45 that day. So I was like, I'm in shape. The weather kind of got me. I know I can run under 2:45. So then I signed up for the Grandma's Marathon that year and ran 2:44. So then I qualified for the Olympic trials. And then the next one I did was in 2018. I did the Richmond Marathon again. And I ran 2:40. So yeah. And then Scott and I worked on, and I felt like at that time for me, my marathon pace was also my 5K pace. So I felt like I was running, pretty much as fast as I could for the marathon. So that's when the next spring we focused really hard on speed work. So I even did like a 10K race on the track. I think I did the pin relays that year. We worked really hard to get my speed down. So then the next marathon I did, I actually had my 5K was so much faster than the marathon. It brought that time down to 2:34 at the Berlin Marathon in 2019.
What'd you think of Berlin?
Oh my gosh, it was amazing. My husband's like, you need to do that one again, right? We need to go back to Berlin. He just wants a vacation. He loves like going to cities like just for fun around the races. But it was cool. The race was awesome. It was, obviously a world-class event, being a world marathon major, but it was a really, really fun week. And I have a cousin that lives there, so we had a blast.
Do you speak German? Okay. No, we just put an interview up of Malaika Mahambo, a long jumper. We did it in English and German, and because one of my riders speaks fluent German. What was Scott's training? How did he influence your training?
So I think with Scott, he trained me to be a very dynamic runner. Like we spend 1 day a week on the track working on like intervals and more speed, and then 1 day a week tempo, more endurance training. And then I have a long run and recovery runs. But I think that his training plan for a marathon, I don't see too many other people doing that. And I get comments. I put everything up on Strava. I have since, 2016, when I just wanted that one kudo for my husband to show him that I ran like 3 miles that day. But, a lot of people were commenting like, Keira, you're training like a 10K runner. And I think it really makes me really dynamic. Like, the day of the Chevron Houston Marathon, if you would have said, you know what, marathon closed today, you're doing a 5K. I think I could have PR'd in the 5K that day. And just having all that speed and getting really comfortable running, a mile in the 4:30s or a mile repeats the end in the 4:30s. Then when I go to run 5:18 pace for a marathon, that makes it a little easier to lock in.
Frank Shorter, the Olympic champion and silver medalist, said he was asked to describe his approach. He said he was a 10K guy who did long runs on Sundays, and the thing that I remember taking from him was that every week he did either a 2-mile time trial or a 2-mile race. So, I mean, for someone, the whole speed idea, and I met Scott one time back with Alan, oh my God, 14 years ago, but really liked the way he approached things with Alan. And how many miles a week are you doing right now?
So it really varies. And I don't think we feel like there's that one magic number. Like leading into the Olympic trials marathon, I was doing a build up between 100 and 130 miles a week. So I felt like that was a little bit more high mileage. Going into the marathon project in 2020, I was between 80 and 100 and 105 miles. For this marathon, I'm coming back off an injury in 2021. So we stayed in the 80s for a lot of it. So my recovery weeks would probably be high 60s, low 70s. And then for a lot of training hovered in the 80s, which I think because I've had such great buildups in the past, I think I really took advantage of that. But I think, what we lacked in volume, we made up for intensity in the workouts.
Talk to me about your training around the Olympic trials. How did you manage the high mileage?
I'm not sure. I found it really enjoyable. I was running a lot slower, I think. And I think I was just fresher and excited. And for me at the time, what really excited me about training was just that mileage number. And I think a lot of newer runners, that is one of the easiest ways to track your running. And, you just assume more mileage equals better, so I think that was kind of my mindset then. And I think I handled high mileage pretty good. I think as far as runner, I feel like I'm a pretty athletic body type. I'm a pretty strong person. So I did well with that. But then we brought it back and worked a little bit more on speed, put a little bit more intensity, and we wanted me to be a little bit more fresher to really nail workouts. So we started bringing that mileage down.
Talk about your Olympic trials experience.
Yeah, it's funny. I went in thinking I might be able to make the team today. My workouts had been going well. My PR was 2:34. I knew it was going to take a sub 2:30. I really felt I was in sub 2:30 shape that day. I think the course got the best of me that day. It was super hilly, and I just started feeling it in my legs. I was with that lead pack, I think, until about half marathon. And then for a moment, I thought, well, maybe if I just slow down and relax just a little bit, then I can start picking people off. And that was just the worst decision I ever made, just because it was so windy. As soon as I got out of that pack, it was just like a wind tunnel. And I was like, well, that was stupid. I'm not catching anyone, and I just fought for the second half of that marathon to stay in it. I finished 15th overall, and I did run a PR, but I feel like I just I didn't nail it that day. I don't know if mentally I gave up on myself or physically I wasn't prepared for all those hills, but I wouldn't consider that a good race for me.
Between the Olympic trials and the marathon project, did you do any other marathons?
No.
And so you cut your mileage, you said, to about 80 to 105, more focusing on speed. Was that kind of the approach?
Yep. After the marathon project, or after the trials, that's when COVID just shut everything down. So we started doing some fun time trials, and I had one time trial, just a 5K time trial on the track that I ran the 15:04 that a friend came out and videotaped, and it went a little bit viral, I guess. And I think that's when I kind of showed up on people's radars. People thought it was like a joke. They're like, is the track short? Did she not run an extra lap? Because I think the title of the video was Mom runs 15:04 or something like that. So, but I think that kind of was such a big breakthrough for my speed, which I think took down all the other time. So yeah, we focused right after the marathon trials on speed. And then we went into a little bit more, I'd say kind of like Frank Shorter was saying, I think I was training like, like a 10K runner. In that fall, I did a half marathon in the Michigan race. I ran, I think I just broke 69, ran 68 something. And then I did that 5K, the Sugar Run, which was a lot of fun, ran 15:08. That was a really hilly course. And I heard later, I think it was a little bit long just for safety reasons. So I was really like, my speed was really, really coming together. And we thought, let's end the year with another marathon at the Marathon Project and just see how that goes. And yeah, it went well.
Talk to me about the Marathon Project. That was an event, a real labor of love with the people who put it together. And so many fine American runners competed well there. And quite frankly, they needed a place to compete because a lot of them weren't able to. I just remember sprinters running 5 or 6 races in one track meet to meet their standards for, being sponsored. And so I think a lot of people did it for that. Were you surprised by your 2:22?
Not really. Like, yes and no, a little bit. I went out with the 2:23 pace group, so I thought that was what I was capable of running. My coach, even afterwards, said he considered seeing if we could get a faster pacer. I think I was fitter than a 2:22 even that day. Maybe not by much. I definitely don't think I could have run with Sarah Hall for the American record that day. So I'm not trying to evaluate that at all. But I was in really, really great shape. And I ran, and also just credit to Ben Rosario and the NAS Elite people for putting that on. They really did a real gift to the elite runners to be able to put that on. And like you said, it was a true labor of love. But I mean, the course was awesome. It was super flat. There was a lot of U-turns, but that was kind of fun because you could see where, I could see how far Sarah Hall was in front of me. And Kellen Taylor went out with Sarah Hall, and then I could see when she fell back. And that was really motivating for me to try to catch up to her. And that race, it felt like I've had so many races where I've hit the wall and I've just crashed and burned. And I think I've only had 2 races in my life where everything just feels magical and I feel like I'm floating. And that was one of the 2 races. And just nothing ever hurt. I never hit a wall. I felt like I could have kept going at the end. And I was running with Ben Bruce, who was the pacer of the 2:23 group. And I think with maybe a lap to go or something, I said, hey, I don't really know what the pacer rules are, but can we pick it up a little bit? And he's like, you want to pick it up? And I was like, I mean, not a lot, but a little bit. I'm feeling okay. And he's like, all right. So we picked it up just a little bit. And yeah, it just was one of those really magical races, and that you just kind of feel like you're floating.
How long did it take you to recover from that?
Yeah, that one took me a while. And I think that was kind of an accumulation of, I had a really intense racing season in the fall. Despite there being limited opportunities, I think my coach and I made the absolute best of it. But I think I took a week or 2 totally off, and then we started easy running for a while. And try to start building to get back in it.
How long were you building for Chevron for Houston?
Yeah, so I started my marathon training back in the summer, leading up to the Chicago Marathon. And we knew it was going to be our shortest buildup ever. We knew I wasn't quite going to be in PR shape. But we went in and my goal was just to do the best I could that day. And, it's just, injuries are unfortunate. They happen to all of us. So, but that just kind of shortened our buildup. So we thought, after Chicago, let's see how I recover. I'm still really fresh. This is still at the very beginning, really, of a training block, and if I was totally trash, we would have just broken it down, called a break, and started training up for track 2022. But I recovered super quickly for that. I think it being so hot, that took my body a little bit just to come back from being dehydrated, I guess, afterwards. But the legs felt great, and we got back into training really quickly. I did the Richmond 8K race early November, and I had a lot of pep. Things were going well. The tempo runs were going really well. So we were gearing up for the USATF half marathon championships. And then we waited to see how that went to decide if we wanted to do a marathon. Like if that went great and I was feeling good and I still felt like I could train another month or so, we were going to find a marathon to do it.
Talk to me about Chicago, and I'm sorry because I was fascinated with that race. What was going on in your head during that race?
That was a tough race for me. You know, I went out at the 5:30 pace group thinking like, it's going to be tough for me today, but this is doable. And I got to maybe 14 or 15 miles and like, I was just done. I hit a wall. I looked at my watch thinking I was going to see like 25 miles. That's how I felt. And I looked down and it was like 15. And I was like, or 16. I'm like, how am I going to run another 10 miles? I have no idea how I'm going to make it to the finish line, but I just kept pushing and kept working towards it. And somehow I finished that race. I really have no idea how I found the strength because that one hurt. And I think just the heat took so much out of everyone. And, I was stopping it up, not physically stopping, but I was grabbing water from all the water stops, just dumping as much on me to try to keep my body heat down. But yeah, that was a pretty tough race for me.
Yeah, that one's kind of surprising because sometimes it's wonderful conditions and other times it has been, I was there on the really couple hot years, so I understand that. So you're able to get everything together and take us through Chevron, take us through the Houston Marathon, how you felt there.
Yeah, so the build up, like after the half, I thought I was definitely in shape to PR. So I thought I can definitely run sub 222 right now. And it kind of like I do my training in like 4-week blocks. So and every 4th week, I take a regeneration week is kind of a slower week. I take one day off that. So my mileage drops a little bit and then I build back up. So we had time to do one more full block. And that I was curious to see how it would go and then what pace I would end up at. And that block just went beautifully. The tempo runs, I nailed the tempo runs. I was feeling really great. My track times were really coming down. And I just felt like everything was moving. Like every week I'd say, this is my best running week ever. This was my best workout ever. And that's such an exciting thing. It builds so much momentum after every workout, leaving thinking, well, that was my best work ever, and workout ever. And then like the next week I'd be like, no, that was my best workout ever, so it's such a powerful, and it gives you such great momentum going into a marathon. And, so I stood on the starting line of the Chevron Houston Marathon thinking like, I know I can run the pace, like 5:18 for 26.2 miles. I know I can do that. I didn't know if it was going to happen that day. It was a little bit cold and, the wind, it was pretty breezy. So I didn't know if it would all come together, but on the starting line, I'm like, this could happen today for me. And it did.
Were you focused on getting Dina's Caster's American record? Did you think it was possible?
Not initially. And I think for me, the only way I could manage the magnitude of that was I didn't think about it. So I just thought, I'm going to see how fast I can get in a marathon. I'm going to can I get down to 5:18 pace? And I started feeling really confident that I could. But whenever I started thinking like, what does 5:18 pace mean? I pulled myself back because I don't think I'll ever be able to wrap my head around that mentally. Dina Caster is a legend. I've put her up on a pedestal my whole life. I've admired her and respected her. So just wrapping my head around that is just impossible. So I kind of just focused on, I even had a conversation with my husband and I started to go down that route. I'm like, so if I run 5:18 pace, I would run the fastest time any American woman has ever run. I can't process that. And he's like, well, don't process that. Just focus on, you can run 5:18 pace. And I was like, okay, I know I can do that, but I don't. So we kept it very internal and, very, I don't know, individualized, I guess. So to me, when I went out that day, it wasn't to break the record. It was to run 5:18, and that's the only way I can manage the magnitude and the pressure of all that.
What did you feel like after the race?
Oh God. It was just surreal. Like I couldn't believe it. And it was confusing because like everything that I just described to just minimize what that meant, I went in thinking this is just another workout where I'm going to run 5:18s. So finishing it, and there were so many points along the way in the race where I thought it may not happen. I was not feeling great. I had to fight harder in that race than I've ever fought in any race in my life. So there were doubts along the way. So just to be able to overcome that and push through, I think was just, I was so proud of that. But then it was just confusing because of the gravity of everything hit me afterwards, and everything was coming together. What I was trying to keep separate so I could manage it then was hitting me. They gave me the American flag. I've never in my life been given an American flag to hold up after a race, so I didn't even know what to do with an American flag, and and then my family was there, and them just like, they've been part of the journey. They've been working hard. They've been sacrificing. They've been seeing how much I sacrificed too. So that just, they were real excited to be there. And just, I kept like looking back at the clock and just being like, that happened. And like looking down at my watch, like, I can't believe that happened, and I don't know. It just was, that was just surreal.
How fast do you think you can run a marathon?
I think I can break 2:18.
Cool. I want to be there and see you do it. It's pretty cool. What does your husband think about it? He's very supportive. That's the way you've explained. Does he run?
He used to. He ran for the Air Force Academy, and right out of college,
cool.
he ran a 2:31 marathon.
Very
cool. He doesn't really run anymore. He now rides his bike with me, and I'm like, man, I am struggling today. I have 20 some miles. And he's like, all right, I'll hop on the bike. I'll blast the jams. I'll keep you going. So
that's awesome.
He's really supportive, but he doesn't run so much anymore.
If you were talking to a group of high school girls about running, what would you tell them? What would you do to encourage them to pursue this activity?
I think the most important thing for all runners, but especially young runners, is this isn't super serious. Like I think you can take your running real serious, and you can work really hard, and that part can be serious. But the name of the game here is fun. Like we're running, we don't need to overthink it, and we can find ways to make this really fun. And if running for you, what makes it fun is the community aspect and getting together with girlfriends and, working hard on something together, then like lean into that portion. If it's really fun for you to focus on mileage. But I think combination of having fun and then finding your why, right? Like, why are you doing this? Because there's so many days it's raining or it's cold and you think like, why am I doing this? So you need to be able to answer back, to be able to work through and really find your best. And then I hate this advice because this is like not sexy advice, but just patience. Nothing happens overnight. And I hate giving that advice, but it's taken me so long to learn that this relationship with running is something that can evolve over your whole life. And it's just something really beautiful to have, but, just be patient with it.
Well, Keira D'Amato, you are a wonderful inspiration, and you've survived 39 minutes and 56 seconds.
I didn't survive. I enjoyed it, Larry. I enjoyed 39 minutes with you.
But really, I look forward to seeing you race. My best to Scott and your family. We will get this up in the next couple weeks, and we will send the links to you, and you can put it up on your site. And then we're going to break out some clips too. So, but parting is such sweet sorrow. Thank you again. You were wonderful today, and really wanted to pick your brain a little bit. And thank you for being so honest. But this is Larry Eder with Socialing the Distance. We've been with Keira D'Amato. She is the American record holder at 10 miles, and she's also the American record holder at the marathon, 2:19:12. And she spent 40 minutes with us today. Keira, thank you very much. Enjoy your run today, and we'll follow up with you with some links and stuff. Okay?
Thanks for having me, Larry. We'll talk soon.
Thank you. Well, hello, sports fans. Larry Eder, RunBlogRun, Socialing the Distance. We just interviewed Keira D'Amato, and I will tell you what an inspiration. For those of you who have been living under a rock for the last month, Keira broke Dina Castor's iconic American record in the marathon at the Chevron Houston Marathon with a time of 2:19:12. Her race before that is she'd run a 2:22 at the Marathon Project. This is from a woman whose first marathon in 2014 was in Missoula, Montana, where she ran 3:49.49. Yes. And when she came back in 2017 to run, she ran a 3:17 and slowly brought it down. She, let's see, I got to make sure I get the high school right too. She went to Oakton High School. She was an Oakton High School Cougar running cross country her freshman year. Didn't really like that first race, but kind of got into it, gave up soccer and did cross country and track, ran 4:51 in high school and could drop a 58 4x4 leg too. And then she spent 4 years with Matt Centrowitz, Sr. at American University. And she said, Matt has this way of simplifying things. And for someone who has spent time with Matt, he does have that KISS principle. Keep it simple, stupid. Don't, mess yourself up with too much craziness. And now she's with Scott Rasko. She had taken 8 years off because she had some ankle injuries and the lovely insurance company wouldn't pay for it. So she had to figure another way to do it. So she became a realtor. She has 2 children, happily married. Her husband's a former 231 guy, Air Force Academy where he ran. And he goes out on the bike and encourages her to do her thing. But she's one of the most enthusiastic people I've ever met, but she's doing it her way. And what it teaches me and what I try to tell you, dear readers, is this. There is no one way to do anything. Find what works for you. That's the important stuff. 2:19:12. My gosh. I saw Dina run the 2:19, I think it was 35 American record back in 2006 in London. And that was a really, really tough one. And I was wondering, wow, who's the American who could do that? Well, Keira D'Amato's the American who could break that record. And one of my last questions to her was, how fast can you go? And she said she thinks she can go 2:18. I hope to see her on the track this spring in a 10,000 because they've already picked the world championship team for the marathon. And unfortunately, Keira, even with the American record, won't be able to get on that. So she's going to focus on the 10. And I think she's got the wheels. But that 2:19 tells me she can run about 30:40. She's got the wheels. And under Scott Rasko's training, and what's fascinating, 4-week cycles, 1 week of regeneration each time. How smart is that? A lot of people could learn from that because as Americans, it's 1 pill, then 2 pills is better. Well, it's 1 mile, then 2 miles is better. I mean, I ran 140 miles a week. I know what it's like, but I was smart enough to run on soft ground so it didn't beat the hell out of my body. A lot of people aren't like that. So you got to figure your stuff out. And what's fascinating to me, the last thing I'll leave you with is this. When she was training for the Olympic trials in 2020, Keira ran 100 to 130 miles a week. She said she liked it because it was kind of mellow training. As she got ready for the Marathon Project, she ran 80 to 105, a little better quality. And then when she did this one for Houston, this was after Chicago, where she had a special day with the heat, she was running about 80 miles a week. Really reminds me a bit of American icon Frank Shorter. And when Frank has said that he was a 10K runner who dabbled in the marathon, did 20 milers on Sundays. And speed is king all the time, from the late coach Bob Geoghegan back at Yale. That's where Frank learned that. And Keira's learning that with Scott Rasko. And I think she's got some cool races to do. So congratulations, Keira. Thank you for the time. Thank you for your energy. And thanks to Mike Deering, our production manager, for making this all possible. This is Larry Eder, Socialing the Distance. We're with Keira D'Amato today. Stay safe, wear your mask inside, get your exercise. Talk to you soon.